Peace, family. All right, so today we're talking about Western values, and we're going to do an actual audit, a full accounting of what this Western culture, Western civilization, what these Western values are all about. Because I just heard recently a pastor, a very charismatic dude, you know, making claims and saying that Islam was a danger to the West. Islam was a danger to Christianity, and Islam was a danger to Western civilization. So I challenge that. I say Islam revitalizes Christianity, the true essence of Isa bin Mariam. And I also say that I agree with him that Islam is dangerous to Western civilization. I'm saying it. I'm gonna get into it. When we think about the West, it's very interesting. The West has a marketing department that literally produces phrases like freedom, democracy, human rights, and civilization. The marketing, superb, A1. The product, on the other hand, I don't know. I want y'all to examine the receipts with me and let's make our assessment from there, okay? And I'm about to present receipts, and you already know what these receipts are. I'm just compiling them all and placing the evidence before you. Now, we've all been told this story about the superiority of Western civilization. We all been invited to integrate their value system. We've all been told that the alternative, specifically Islam, is barbaric, is oppressive, and is violent. But a system is not measured by what people say, by marketing, by propaganda. A system is measured by what it produces at scale, all right? The sum total of what that system represents, right? The West produces the largest pornography industry in human history, around 200,000 alcohol-related deaths per year, a government that's purchased by foreign lobbying money, APAC, a medical system designed for chronic illness instead of healing. I mean, there's no money in healthy people. A criminal system that is incentivized by keeping inmates longer and getting more inmates. An opioid crisis that's killed 500,000 people in the past 20 years. A child trafficking network whose clients, they never get prosecuted. They're literally free. There's evidence of their crimes, nothing happening. A pedophile elite class that is not held accountable for sexually abusing children. What are we talking about here? Also, an entertainment industry that serves as your child's first sexual education, and a marriage institution that frankly does not work. I don't care what you say, America has one of the highest divorce rates in the world. It don't work here. But all of these are products of American Western values. Now let's look at the word civilization. Civilization comes from the Latin word civilis, of or relating to citizens. It's pretty straightforward. So from civis, a citizen, someone who belongs to a city, a body, a covenant of order. So civilization by root means the project of building and sustaining ordered community. This is what that word's initial meaning was. Western civilization has named itself as the apex, as the dandada, the top, right? It's written the textbooks, it's produced the films, it's controlled the banks, it's exported the conclusion. But Mike Rashid, what is that conclusion? That conclusion is a fallacy that the West is what all nations aspire to be. But let's look at the claim against the structure. Now let's go back to the Enlightenment era. That is when it presented the Western civilization's intellectual birth certificate, produced a doctrine of universal human rights. That sounds really good, really positive. That sounds like what a civilization should do, right? Well, let's look at it. That happened during the same time that European states owned enslaved Africans. And then you had a guy named Thomas Jefferson. I'm not sure if you heard of him, but Thomas Jefferson. This man wrote that all men are created equal while he was holding over 200 black people as property. is cattle. And then there's another guy named John Locke. His whole political philosophy underwrote the American foundation. He invested in the Royal African Company. The Bill of Rights was ratified by slaveholders because of this guy. Now, that is a different type of hypocrisy. That is a very evil hypocrisy. The historical records show that the language of these universal rights were created only for white European men. So what it should have been called was white European men's rights only, because it was never ever designed to be universal. That is the framework of this country. That is deeply woven into the fabric of this nation. And I say that because people be like, oh, it's so long ago, slavery was so long ago. It actually wasn't. But this is the foundation of this country. Listen, y'all, we have to be wise. We have to have a high degree of pattern recognition. And the pattern here is consistent. The values are only in the marketing of this nation. Now, let's follow the money. Right now, as we sit here, the United States government allocates more than $800 billion per year to the Department of the Defense. 800 B's, billions, not millions. 800 billion, right? Y'all follow me? And how much you think goes to education? $90 billion to education. So 800 billions to weapons, to things that can harm, maim, kill, and a fraction of that to the education of the young minds of this nation. Now, the difference between those two numbers should tell you a lot. It shows you a complete, clear picture of what this uncivil civilization actually values. And since we're talking about American values, the West values, Western values, the pornography industry in the United States alone generates over $15 billion in pure cash revenue every year. 15 billion. The alcohol industry generates over 250 billion. What are we talking about? And stand on this odyssey of exploring these American values, these Western values, gambling over 600 billion. These are activities and things that brings the degenerate nature out of people. And you may not realize it, but these are some of the most prominent and the primary economic engines in this country. They generate GDP, they fund political campaigns, they buy regulatory protection so they can finesse and finagle and change laws. They're embedded in the legal architecture of this alleged civilization as a legitimate commerce. These are Western values, a whole uncivil civilization that generates its economic activity from the sale of addiction, from the sale of women's bodies, from institutionalizing and systemizing debt, risk. This is the opposite of civil. There's no civility in any of this. This is literally an extraction machine that is built and designed to convert human weakness and human vulnerability into cash money, into revenue. This is what the word value means when it's attached to the word Western. It means that humans' vulnerabilities, people's weaknesses are identified, extracted, is legalized, is marketed to, and is monetized. The commodification of the female body is a core Western value in the economic sense. A woman's body generates billions in direct pornographic commerce and trillions in advertising revenue. Listen, female sexuality is used to sell anything that you can imagine. Sex sells is what they say. The body of a woman in this Western value system is just a production asset. Its value is measurable and market priced. This is the vessel in which all life flows through. There's no respect for it. When you get to a point to where you can commoditize mothers, sisters, daughters, aunts, you have descended into the deepest levels of evil. Also, there is a management of male sexual energy through commercial products that's also a core Western value. Think about it. Pornography is now the primary sexual educator of young males in the West. The average age of a young person's first experience with pornography is, guess, it's 11. These boys are receiving their first instruction in what women are, what intimacy is, and what sex means from a commercial product designed to produce neurological dependency and repeat purchases, and it's a filthy source. There's no love there, there's no covenant, it's just transactional. And another one of these Western values is the institutionalization of intoxication. Intoxicants, alcohol, whatever you want to call it, is a core Western value. Alcohol carries a body count of almost 200,000 people every single year consistently, and that number is rising. It destroys livers, families, it destroys your decision-making capabilities, it destroys your generational wealth. And what's crazy is the West has not just legalized it, the West has made this a staple in the social infrastructure of America. And this is crazy to me. The absurdity of alcohol being a staple in the American fabric is just astounding. They spend billions on creating it, billions on marketing it, and they market it with people, you know, these fabulous people living these wonderful lifestyles on the boats, loving life, when in reality, people just end up waking up in bushes or in handcuffs, dead, injured. You can't even compare. The civilization that has claims to value rational decision making has built its social bonding rituals around a chemical suppression of rational decision making. The externalization of moral accountability is also a core Western value. Under this Western framework, freedom means freedom from consequence, freedom from obligation, freedom from the demand of covenant, also freedom from God. The highest value person in a Western popular culture is the autonomous individual who answers to nobody, to no one who owes nothing to their parents, to their community, to their history, or to God. Is those who define their own truth, who live solely for their own satisfaction. This is presented as the apex of human development. The Quran describes this psychology precisely. Have you seen who has taken as his God his own desires, and has set a seal upon his hearing and his heart, and put over his vision a veil? So who will guide him after Allah? That is classical Western individualism. Pardon me, y'all. It's hot in here. I gotta take this hoodie off. Give me 1 second. These are not values in any moral sense of the word. Now, it's important that we look at the diagnosis, right? Let's look at Western values operating systems and make an actual diagnosis. Now, you can read a civilization's values the same way you read your blood work, right? Results don't lie. The results is the receipt, and the receipt is the body. You are the receipt, your body's the receipt. So let's examine the body of the West, and this is my actual field, my profession, so I'm very passionate about this part. Now, 42%, and so almost half, of American adults are clinically obese. I didn't say overweight, I said obese. That's a whole nother level from overweight, right? But the overweight, 70%. So 70% of American adults are overweight. And that's not a knock to the people. That's not because people are just so weak and don't got no discipline, right? That is a symptom of the West diseased culture. That's the American system, the American way. Look, when I travel to different countries, I can always see Americans because we tend to be heavier and fatter and rounder and just big. Like, that's just how it is. We are obsessed with consumption. You ain't hungry, you're addicted to food because they make the food addicting. Why would they do that? To make more money. Duh. This is a capitalistic system. In a capitalistic system, you are obligated, if you own a business, part of your fiduciary duty is to increase your bottom line, is to become more profitable next year. So when you have capitalism injected in the medical industry, in the food industry, in the criminal justice industry, how can any of these industries be beneficial to people when the main concern of these corporations is to make more money? Medical industry, capitalism in the medical industry, yeah, we need more sick people. Don't heal them, let's keep them on the meds. Every month it runs out, they need a new bottle. This is a system. It's not good for business for y'all to be healthy and healed. The criminal justice system, every state is a little bit different. every county, every city. Each inmate that a jail gets, they get welfare from the government. And then you have the privatized institutions. The money the government pays for whatever services that they use is over the top. It's crazy. They make money, they print money, so they don't care what people charge, right? So anyway, every inmate costs, and they figure every which kind of way to charge for just having an inmate in there. So it's not an incentive for them to rehabilitate people who have made mistakes. The incentive is to keep them in there. That should not have any component of capitalism or profit. None of those industries. But this is the American value system. This is the Western values that they talk about as being so superior. The processed food industry literally employs neuroscientists and flavor chemists. I bet you didn't even know there was a such thing as a flavor chemist whose only function is to make food products produce a dopamine response sufficient, powerful enough to override the signals in the body that tells you that you're full and you've had enough food. If that's not evil, I don't know what is, right? That's criminal. But money's important out here. That is an American value, that's a Western value. That is what the West is about. They're literally extracting money from the degradation, from the killing of the human body. Hypertension, insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, heart failure, cancer. These are all symptoms of a diseased Western culture. And like I said earlier, look at the families, right? America's divorce rate is one of the highest in the world. You got hookup culture, you got sexual freedom, prostitution. These are those Western freedoms that they talk about. Intimacy just because. Swipe on Bumble. Infinite options, right? BBLs everywhere. We live in a dirty society. We really live in a sick society, a godless society. But these are the values of the West. And don't ever disrespect our beloved prophet Isai bin Madi'im alayhi salam with saying that this is a Christian society. It's not. It is not. The dominant energy of the West is anti-Christian. It has nothing to do with the Christ, with the Messiah. So don't put that filth on his name. Y'all just say West, 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 whatever. This is not a Christian nation. Y'all say that, but it's not. This is a nation, this is a civilization in which, you have this collapse of the father, right? That is a symptom of the output of the Western value system. Look at the marketing. Look at the propaganda. Propaganda ain't pamphlets falling out of jets, out of airplanes. Propaganda is what you see on TV, right? Is the entertainment, is the things that people are tapped into all day, every day, right? And they have redefined masculinity to be like idiots. It has nothing to do with protection, with discipline. Men have become somewhat economically parasitic on the communities and the women around them. When fatherhood is legally structured to make men fungible and financially punishing, that makes a lot of guys just disengage from the whole family structure altogether. Like, why do that, right? Why would I put myself in that situation? And like I said, the propaganda machine, entertainment, the entertainment culture treats the responsibilities of a family man as either a fool, a tyrant, and they celebrate the unattached pleasure-seeking men. That's the aspiration. The culture is actively engineering the removal of fathers, and y'all don't even see it. The percentage of American children growing up without a father in the home is 30% across the board. It's so weird. This civilization is eating its own foundation. Look at what it's doing to the human mind. Social media platforms, that's the only thing that this Western culture has produced to export culturally or civilizationally, if that's a word. The goal was never about human connection, right? The goal was money, engagement time, monetized through advertising, that's it. The average American spends how many hours you think a day on social? They spend 7 hours a day on screens and most of the time not doing anything productive. Depression, anxiety, loneliness, suicide, the inability to concentrate. These are Western values. These are American values. You know what else is unique about good old American and Western values? The Epstein Network, a multi-decade operation that trafficked children to powerful men across governments, financial institutions, entertainment, whatever, you name it. The client list is documented. The clients were never prosecuted. The woman who ran the whole operation, she got convicted, right? She got convicted. She's not even in prison no more. She's in camp, right? The men who use the children, they're still living their lives, their professional lives. And some of them are in the they are in the highest of highest places. Your president, right? He's all in the, your president is in the Epstein files. Your president told y'all lies that he was going to find out who's in the files, he's going to put it out, and we're going to go after them. Y'all believed it, ate it up, voted for him, and what'd he do? He said, man, I ain't talking about that. That's a long time ago. It's dead. Y'all really want to talk about that? Yes. But on to the next thing. We're at war now, right? So no one's thinking about these files. This is crazy, y'all. This is what the West does with the bodies of children when those children stand between powerful men and their nasty fetishes and weird, evil, demonic appetites. This wicked Western civilization claims to value the protection of children, but they couldn't protect those children because the men who owned and abused those children also owned the government. These are the Western values that they hold so dear to. You were raised inside of it. The pornography education reached you before you had the spiritual foundation or formation to resist it. Processed foods in your house. This is the American culture. Alcohol was normalized at your family functions. This is American culture. This is why I always say divorce yourself from this American culture, this Western culture, because it's wicked. Now let's talk about this brother, this charismatic brother, Pastor Philip Mitchell. He said that Islam is a threat to America. Wait, before I get to that, he said that he was a Muslim. I've searched high and low. I've found no records, no pictures, no nothing. He talked about his criminal record. Like, he got the swagger, he got street swag, right? So, and I get it. So people are drawn to him because it's a contrast of someone speaking of spirituality when they got that edge to them. I have, we have a pretty big company here. We have robust systems of background checks. I see nothing about an arrest from this brother. No mugshot, no nothing. Because he's claiming that he was in prison. He said he lived this flashy drug dealer life. Not one picture of him living that life. And that doesn't glorify anything, but it's a credibility thing, right? When somebody says something, especially someone whose profession, occupation is of a religious or a spiritual nature, a theological setting, they should be honest. And the brother, he just said things that I just found interesting. He said, Allah is a demon. Sir, you claim to be a Christian. Christianity is supposed to be Isa alayhi salam, our beloved Jesus, peace be upon him. Jesus was an Afro-Asiatic man. He spoke an Afro-Asiatic language. The tree of languages that all these languages came from is called Proto-Afro-Asiatic, right? The branch that he spoke was called Aramaic. Aramaic is not spoken anymore. The closest language to that is Arabic. The languages are very similar. So when our beloved Jesus, peace be upon him, would go into Salah and pray, because that's what he did when he was, surrender himself to Allah, he said Allah. Well, he said Ilah, I-L-L-A-H. Aramaic is Ilah, Arabic is Allah. It means the same thing. Allah is not a name, it is a description of source. It means the God, one God. So why would you call the God that Jesus prayed to a demon? No serious person of the book, of any theological fabric, would say these kind of things. It's a very dismissive, rude, ignorant, and just outright stupid thing to say. So I don't even take this brother serious. He's a influencer that's popping right now. Look, people, it's not hard to round people up in an alleged Christian nation when you stand on a box of Christianity. It's not hard to round people up when you stand on a Democratic or Republican platform or whatever, right? It's not hard. These things are mega easy, right? So, and he's charismatic. He could speak. He got the gift of gab. I give him all of that, right? But what's in your core, bro? You are going to Israel and kissing the wall. What is that about? What's this alignment with Israel? And this has nothing to do with our Jewish brothers. I'm talking about Israel. I'm talking about Zionism. Let's get it straight. Zionism, and when people criticize and come after Zionists, they're not coming after Jews. It's not the same. Look it up. Look up the definition of what a Zionist is and what a Jew is. Christian Zionist, Jewish Zionist, it don't matter. A Zionist is a Zionist is a Zionist. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. It's not the same. I have people that I love and respect that are Jewish. I think the Jewish faith in its purity is beautiful, just like all other Abrahamic faiths. The same lineage. So I'm talking about Zionism. What is your connection? Anyway, he said something very interesting. He said that Islam is a threat to a Western Christian nation or civilization. And then he kept saying about the West. He's right about something. Islam is a threat to American Western society. Let me break it down. Islam restores morality. Islam restores cleanliness in mind and body. It restores humility. Islam restores a sense of community. And Islam restores Christianity. We do what Jesus did. We haven't changed anything. Jesus didn't come and say, you know what, after me, when I leave, that New Testament, it wipes out all of these rules. Never said that. So we stand with what Jesus did. Islam is not a reaction to the West. Islam predates the West. Islam will outlast the West. But Islam does not stand as the complete answer to every question that the Western system cannot answer, because the Western system was never designed to answer those questions. It was designed to produce customers. Islam was designed to produce servants to Allah, servants to God, obedient people, obedient to righteousness, to love, to truth, right? The love, honor, and respect that we show to God is practice of how we should treat each other to love and honor God's creations. So I would never, ever say someone's faith is demonic when they represent Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, you name it. I'd never say that. People that are truly seeking alignment with God don't do that. They don't. If you read your books, your texts, it speaks against that across the board, right? So we can't take this person serious. And for black people, I understand, I get it. But this man is trying to keep you intertwined with a system that the people who enslaved you introduced to you. I want nothing from the slave master. I don't know why you would either. We can get to Jesus, but not that way. All kinfolk is not just kinfolk. Just because he looks like you doesn't mean he's you or he represents you. He has his masters that he has to serve. Y'all saw him kissing the wall over there with the little hats. I said what I said. The prescription that I write to this disease called Western culture is very precise. It's a complete and functional alternative operating system for the human being, the family, the community, and civilization. We have to address the body first. The Islamic system treats the body as amana. In Islam, that's a trust. It don't belong to, no, It doesn't belong to us. Like, this body is not my body. This is God's body, right? We don't own this in the ownership sense. It belongs to Allah. You, me, we're just custodians. The single principle internalized produces a completely different relationship to food, to alcohol, to sexual behavior, to physical health. You don't abuse a trust. You don't willingly degrade what was given to you to protect. The prohibition of alcohol is a protection of the cognitive faculty that Allah gave you for a specific purpose. What was that purpose, Mike? To think, to reflect, to recognize truth, to choose submission over appetite. The prohibition of pornography is not the restriction on desire. It's the protection of the capacity for genuine, intimate covenant, which does require the ability to see another human being as a full human being instead of just a body that you want to use up when you feel like it. The halal diet is not arbitrary. It's a system of bodily discipline that trains the will through repetition. Look, every meal requires intention. Every bite that requires acknowledgement of your creator. Every fast that requires surrender to desire of the fundamental spiritual discipline. The will submitting to a higher order than its own comfort. That's a gift to you and to me. That's a gift to us. The West cannot prescribe this because the West economy depends on the unlimited exploitation of appetite. Every restriction on your desire is a reduction in consumer spending. So you being a disciplined, clean-minded, strong person is not good for business for them. It's not, they don't want that. They want an impulsive, fat, weak consumer, emotionally driven consumer. A person who fasts is not buying. A person who lowers his gaze is not watching porn. A person who maintains the body as a trust is not purchasing the products that monetizes its degradation. Islam is literally structurally incompatible with the extraction economy because it refuses to place value market on human weakness. The wild, wild, wicked West has built an entire civilization to profit from your inability to govern yourself. Every platform, every product, every service in the extraction economy depends on you remaining ungoverned. Your governance is an act of resistance that they cannot legislate away, they cannot market against, they cannot monetize. The man who governs his own desires starves the machine. Govern yourself not for the internet, not for anybody's approval, not because it makes you look disciplined. Govern yourself because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Basir, the all-seeing. Every act of self-governance is done in his sight, no matter who else is watching. It don't matter who's watching. See, the wicked wild, wild west, they call that repression, but Islam calls it cultivation. The difference between those two words is the difference between a plant cut by an enemy and a plant cut and pruned by a gardener who intends to bear its fruit. Under Islam, under this spiritual system, you are being pruned for fruit. So carry that. Carry it into your business and let your ledger reflect your values. Carry it into your community and let your money circulate. Carry it into your family and let your children see a man whose words matches his actions. The civilization that worships self is dying. Allah does not sell absolution. Allah does not have a lobbying budget. Allah does not have a media arm that can manufacture your consent. You were given this life as a test. The West want to make that a transaction. Refuse the transaction and take the test. Assalamu alaikum.